Okay, I've got some sound, everybody, and I had a little bit of a technical difficulty before. Let us pray that it does not happen again. I'm also going to go over to Vital Source and check in there and get my open up the digital textbooks. And we'll talk about the I don't get this. Okay. I don't want Jigsaw. I want Vital Source. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now let's talk about the textbooks for the course. First is the Loudon Text and Management Information Systems, okay? And the second is a text that's over, and we'll pop over to Amazon real fast. And that text book is the Hypersocial Organization. And let me move this thing for just a moment. There's Amazon. There it is. Okay, so that's the second textbook that we'll be using in the course. How do I know? Well, I have the syllabus, okay? And let me pop over here and grab that. There's the syllabus for fall. And those are the two texts that are required. Both are necessary. And then I give you I give you the grading, all right? And the course schedule and the grading policies, okay? And my standards in terms of a formal paper presentation. You've got to submit everything in the LMS. I want to talk about this for just a moment because I get some questions, and while that's a pretty extensive policy as far as what I want in a case study, I want to talk with you about a bit about that. So let's go over here. We'll go back, and we're going to go into the week one. Now, week one, you have 3 things that are due. That's the end of the week. A case follow-up 1, our farms becoming digital farms. And then the second one deals with the management decision problem. So we have a case follow-up, a management decision problem, okay? And you can work on either MDP 1.7 or MDP 1.8. And then you have an exam over Loudon. Now, I'm going to go into Vital Source and look at this text and spend just a bit of time speaking with you about what we're looking at. Now, here we're over at page 37, okay? And I'll move this on up over here. And this is the one dealing with the farms. What do I want you to do? Here's how I want you to respond to the case studies. The case studies will usually have a series of questions after them. I want each one of these questions to be the major part of your paper, your case study, and I want you to respond to them. Now, I want at most, I'd like a paragraph for each of these. Then I'd like you to cite your sources, use APA format, and respond to these questions about the case study. Okay? And I'm going to be somewhat lenient in the sense that this time I'm going to let you use a true bibliographic style. You say, what do you mean? What that means is I want you to go out and find some articles on digital farms, the use of digital technologies in farms, and I want to see it. So how many do you want? I think 3 to 4 articles would be fine. Now, while we're at it, I want to show you something, make sure that if you've never done it or you might miss it, you do have tools inside of, you have tools in Word. If you click on the references in Word, you'll see that you can build a bibliography. And they'll give you imperfectly, if you use APA, you're good to go. Now all you have to do is click Manage Sources, and you can use a master list, okay? And if you want to add a new source, you can do that, and they'll give you a template that you fill out. So you can have your bibliography, it's a matter of filling out the template. So there's no reason for you not to have your sources in APA format. Okay, so that's how I want you to handle the case study. Let's look at the second assignment there. And you have a management decision problem, and that's over on page 33. Now, you can work on management decision problem 1-7 or 1-8. This, of course, is very much about information policy, things of that nature. And so we'll be doing this, but I don't want you to be writing me a whole voluminous bunch of stuff. So we'll go back over here to page 33. And you'll see there's some discussion questions, and here are 2 management decision problems. Okay? 1-7 or 1-8. You can do either one of them. And then you have this 1-9. Now, let's look at these. They give you this information, and then at the end they say it's data. Here's the part that's important. If a department needed to update its data after submitting the spreadsheet, has had to return the original spreadsheet and wait for the department, assess the impact of the situation on finally submitting the updated data in the consolidated document. Okay, so this is a document sharing question. Then here's a question 1-8. So you could do either that, Snyder's of Hanover, or you could do the Dollar General Corporation. Either one of those. Now, I would like from you a memo style, okay, that you give me headings, key points. It could be the questions, but give me key points and some sources that are related to these. Either one that you do, I really want no more than 1 page. Okay? 1 page, and I want to see about three sources. These need to be good ones. Now, over here in Canvas, in Canvas, yikes. I give you some resources. And folks, look, here's the OBU library online resources. So you know where to go get resources. Okay, scholarly resources, good ones. You can use the template there, the references builder in Word. So there shouldn't be any big issue about you giving me a decent one-page response for either one of these management decision problems. So you could choose the one that is Hanover, or you can choose the one that deals with, who is it? It was Hanover, and I think it was Dollar General. Okay? So this course is very much, it's a policy course. It's not all about, using spreadsheets or stuff like that. Now, the other assignment that you have is Loudon Chapter 1 from the 15th edition, which is the textbook I've been showing you, okay? Now, for next week, you've got a case follow-up and a management decision problem in terms of, here's a great case about Facebook, and then another case about, you can either work on MDB 2, Chapter 2, so we're into Chapter 2 there, and that should be fairly simple to see, all right? So that's what I'm after in terms of what you write for me and what you do. Now, what I tend to do is take these, all right, and try to frame the chapters so we can take and frame things in a little bit better fashion. So I'm going to pop over here to Vital Source, and I want to come over here for a moment, and I have just kind of a walkthrough of what I think are some key pieces in Chapter 1, okay? And remember, the Loudon text is about how do we build information systems and use them. And here's an excellent case where they talk about the Krogers and how they're building the store of the future. Now, what you'll see as you look through these chapters is typically there will be some kind of a practical example, and then the authors will come in with some conceptual material. And this is a key part. All right? This is the kind of, this figure shows us how we blend management, that's people, the organization, how it's structured, and technology to feed information systems to come up with business solutions that feed business challenges. Information systems must be decision-centric, period. That's what they're about, helping us make better decisions. And we see them transforming things, and they give us all kinds of practical examples down here, where with the Q vision predicting the number of customers, opening additional registers, reducing waiting time. You can see food temperature monitoring systems, click lists where people can order stuff. And again, they talk about Kroger and all of these things that they're using technologies to build the store of the future. Okay? Now, the authors will give us some. They talk about the mobile pocket office, and what they're really talking about is a smartphone that really has a bunch of functions that start to act like really start to give you a mobile office. Now, a key piece of this are some of the terms. So I give you these quizzes so you can get some of the vocabulary that you need to really make sense of these cases. And again, let me say, this course is about how on a macro basis or an enterprise basis do we weave all this together. And you have some of these interactive sessions. All right. Now, again, The text gives us some key figures. Here's figure 1.7, which I think is a very, very important piece of this. And that is looking at the business value information chain. Okay? And notice what we've got here. At the top, we have business processes. Each of these are a system in themselves. We have data collection and storage, transformation into business systems, dissemination out to the business processes, and also into management activities and information processing activities. They're building business value. So this is the information value chain. At the end, notice what we have. We have knowledge management. You remember you've heard me talk about knowledge is information that's reproducible and generalizable. I can apply it to a lot of different situations. And you've heard me talk about business wisdom. And then we come out to this point where they feed into a firm's profitability and a strategic position because we've gotten some wisdom from that. Now, when you see modeling and decision making, when you've taken, those of you who have, or when you take management science with me, you're going to see that we build models to enable us to identify key variables and then work those variables, change them, see what kinds of outcomes we get. So we understand that decision making it's a continuum from the really, really good to the really, really bad, and then kind of the so-so. So this is a very, very important schematic for you to see. This is how it all happens. Now, the text has got some great things like hands-on projects, the case studies, those types of things. And I really wanted to stick with the case studies because I want you to try to think at a bigger level than we've been doing just with showing you techniques and these applications. Now we're kind of bringing it up to the enterprise level and saying, okay, so a lot of this is going to be stuff that you're going to find out. If you're to say, well, Dr. Harmon, why am I taking this course? You're taking it because you need to understand how information systems operate. Well, this is pretty much the roadmap for us doing that. And you say, well, I need to know this? I don't have any idea. You may be responsible just for supply chain management. Every one of these figures, I think these are chevrons, those are each of them deal with, would be an entire course of study, some of them an entire degree program. That's how complex all of this is and how complex it can become. But ultimately, we have some knowledge management, and we use some tools that work with knowledge management, with the knowledge that we have, to do some modeling and ultimately to do some decision making. Okay, so that's an important piece there in chapter 1. Now, I want to show you another figure here, figure 1.8. And this is what I'm going to do in each of the chapters is I'll pick out what I think are really some key things, especially figures that will help explain some things. Now, this figure looks at productivity, okay, relative to industry average, okay, that's on the x-axis, on the y-axis, and the x-axis is IT capital stock relative to average industry. And as they tell us, investments in information technology produce produce returns far above those returned by other investments, there's considerable variation across firms, and that's true. But we do see that investment in IT can give us some stupendous payoffs. Now you got these 4 quadrants here, and you have this one where there's kind of a moderate investment in IT capital, and you're getting really some nice returns. Then you look down here and you see, well, you're pretty much getting what you pay for. You put a little bit of money into IT capital stock. That's going to be people and systems and equipment, and then you kind of get a decent return. Then you see all of these clustered in the middle. And then you see somewhere we've really put a lot of money into technology and we're getting some big payoffs. So this scatter plot tells us that on the whole, that returns, as they say, there's some considerable variation across firms, but if you look at the scatter plot, you see, well, here's most of it. Now you'd ask yourself, why is it? And if you look at these, you'll see, well, what you pay is pretty much what you're getting. That's one of the things about this type of schematic that shows you, if you buy second-rate systems, you're going to get second-rate performance. If you hire inexperienced people, they're going to have to learn on the job, and it may be very painful for you in the process. How do you leverage it to get out here? Or how do you have a small investment and get a very good bang for your buck in terms of productivity? And that's where this course really focuses you on what we know in terms of structured approaches to get that accomplished, to get you the return on investment that you want, or a firm would want. And here they talk about some of the complementary social, managerial, and organizational assets required. And they talk about these organizational assets. And I alluded to them earlier. You can read faster than I can talk. Social assets management. And then they talk about the academic disciplines that we use to study information systems. And figure 1.9 is quite important because it tells you how we tend to approach information systems, the contemporary approach, the management information system. There's technical, there's behavioral. The behavioral looks at the sociological parts of this, the economics, the psychology. The technical approaches look at more from a management science, more from a computer science and an operations approach. So we've got kind of a human approach and a technical approach. And we want to blend those to get the best MIS, the best management information system that we can get. Really good people without the tools to do the job are really good people. But they're not going to get the job done. The best technology in the world with not so bright and not so skilled a set of people will be a disappointment. It becomes an issue, in my opinion, of balancing these things. I think that authors do a great job of showing us how these two approaches, and they almost really have to be blended together. And that's why, as they talk here, they give you the approach of the text of socio-technical systems. In other words, we're saying information systems are composed of the hardware, the software, and the peopleware, and the policyware for this all to work. People have to know the policies. They have to understand the business's value proposition. They have to understand that. They have to be trained to work with the technology effectively. The technology has to be good. It has to work. If it doesn't, you're dead in the water. So this is a process of blending these things together to get the desired results. Finally, and we're coming down to the end of this, you look at this, and these are, as we talk about information systems, just kind of an overview of them, all right? You'll see in this figure 110 are very important. One of the reasons that this textbook, I chose it for you, is it's the gold standard in MIS. It's the gold standard because the authors are very conversant with the technologies required. They're also very conversant with the management challenges that are posed by information systems. One of the great problems we have is what I call DIY MIS, and that is do-it-yourself MIS, where over the years, things have been siloed. And so the accounting people have their own software, the marketing people have their own software. Now, this doesn't mean that you should not have specialized software and equipment for a given business function. But what it means is this: at the end of the day, those should be pipelines that feed into the lake, or pipelines that feed into a bigger pipeline called the business strategy. If they don't do that, they're not serving their purpose. And so the authors show this, where we started and they show this as a series of choices. And notice what they say. This works best when we optimize the extent to which we're about organizations and alternatives and the final design of our technology and the final design of our organization. It's a balancing act. And if you do it successfully, well, you're going to have some returns on investments. How do I know? We can go right back over here to the scatter plot, and we can see we got a lot of people clustered in the middle. That makes sense. They pretty much get in what they put out. And then we have these outliers. People like these folks, like these folks, people like these folks who are getting a high return, or when they put in a big amount of IT capital stock, they get a big productivity jump. Now you can see here they put in about 4.0 and look what they're getting. They're way up in terms of productivity. This first chapter brings us into and really ties all of this together, this socio-technical approach that we talk about, that we see here in Figure 110. So as you do a case study, as you do one of these management decision problems, I hope that you will take a look at these figures and say, okay, how do they apply to this particular problem? Now we have the example of Kroger. One of the great things about this text, and I really encourage you, don't miss it. Many times students go, well, tell me how this actually works in the real world. Okay, this text does a fantastic job. Look at the Kroger case and read it, and you'll never see a supermarket the same way again. You'll see all of it, or retail for that matter. So they do a fantastic job of delivering it. Now, I'm one of those people who has written them and begged them to create videos of these case studies. Go out to these companies, talk to people, interview them, make it a lot juicier. You know, we can all read faster than we can hear, but sometimes we like to see the real thing. And hopefully someday they will. That's my great hope. We've got some review summaries and some questions to think over. And of course, those types of and then we begin to move into the question of the digital farm. Are farms becoming digital farms? And I think you're going to find it a very, very interesting case study. Farming is about as risky as it gets. Even with all of these modern aids of irrigation and pesticides and the techniques that we have, that we can get dig deeper into the soil, and we can build soil and replenish it so it has a high level of nutrients, which helps get plant growth going, and use strains of so we get crops that are heat resistant or pest resistant. In the end, you really are going to the casino when you're a farmer. One bad drought, one hailstorm, one fire can kill you, wipe you out. The fires that are going on, for example, up in California, I have yet to really get the geography of them in my head so I can find out what they're doing to the Napa Valley. They may be far away from there. I hope so, because if not, there is billions of dollars of information going up in smoke. You say, what are you talking about? When people make wine or Jim Beam or Budweiser or anything of that sort, that is a highly information-intensive enterprise. You have to know the planting season. You have to understand the weather. You have to have mastered the art of dealing with that particular plant, or say grapes that you use. And if you go out and you study that industry very much, you'll find it's almost as complex as pharmaceuticals, and it's information intensive because it's not something you just walk in there and do. It's an art as much as it is a science, and so you really have to understand what's going on, and that takes time, and that takes knowledge, and it takes wisdom. That's why information is the most valuable resource that any company has other than its people. So I think this is just absolutely fascinating. Now, in addition to that management decision problem, that case study, excuse me, I gave you an MDP over here on page 33. Snyder's of Hanover, okay, they sell snack foods, versus Dollar General. You can choose one of the two of them. Students always complain to me that it's not real world. This is as real world as it gets. These case studies, the authors will go out, they'll talk to the people in these companies, and they'll develop these case studies on the basis of real things that have happened in that firm. And so you get the benefit of their knowledge. You get that understanding. Okay, well, folks, I don't want to belabor this, and I don't want to go too much further. Let me say this also: if you've purchased your books and you purchased physical books, that's fine. If I were you, I'd get an ebook. Maybe if you have a Kindle, and get it from Amazon. Why? because when you get ready to take the quizzes, you'll be thanking me because you'll be able to do a search for the term. Here's something that will change how you study. And some instructors, I don't do it, will use a digital textbook and they'll mark it up. They'll highlight areas, pages within a chapter that they think are really important, and you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to have a quiz over them. Now, I don't do that. I pull quizzes, and I get random items for that chapter. And my belief is the quiz is to give you some vocabulary and also ultimately to make sure you read the chapter or at least skim through it and have to look through it. And I understand for a lot of people reading is a very dull thing. I get it. But get ready to read a lot of stuff, especially if you're going to work for a big company. You'll be going through reports till you won't want to see another one. Well, folks, I think we've had a good run with this. We've got a good start, and now you see kind of what I'm after in terms of the course and what we're trying to do. So we're looking at MIS, which is the big global, the enterprise level approach, okay, to what we're doing and how we're handling these systems. And all I can really do is bring you back to, if you were to say, Dr. Hartman, what is the heart of this textbook? What's the heart of this course? I'm going to show them to you right now. I'm going to start with the business information value chain. I think the Kroger case is exceptionally well done. Variations in returns, and what this tells us is about there's a lot of people who are average, maybe a little bit of average. Then there are those few firms who can leverage and get big results. And the complementary assets that we need to get optimized returns. Optimization meaning getting the best return for our investment. And these approaches, the technical versus the behavioral, and you could see the disciplines they're drawn from. And then ultimately, how do we balance technology alternatives versus organization alternatives? How do we balance the two of them to get that result that we need? And that is information, actionable information, knowledge, which is actionable information that's replicable and generalizable. You can apply it in a lot of different situations. Knowledge, which is a step above that, more global, and then finally wisdom. Those things that we see that are of great value. I'll give you a real quick example. You probably have heard me talk about this before. Herb Kelleher, the founder of Southwest Airlines, had two epiphanies in his career. Really three. The first one was when he founded Southwest Airlines. He and his partner, they said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to only fly from point A to B. We're not going to use a hub and spoke system where you fly in and you get off and you deboard and all. We're going to fly you from point A to point B. Number two, point A to point B, we're going to price that flight so that it is very nearly about as much as it would cost you in gas. to drive it. So now you've taken the experience of flying and you have done what? You've cannibalized now into the sector of business traveler who drives. So that was one important moment. The next is where they said, where he came to the realization, flying is not about just getting you from one place to the next. Flying is about the experience. And so that's why you had the Southwest people, you know, they'd sing and dance and make jokes, all that crazy stuff they do to give you an experience. A third epiphany that he had was this. One day as he was trying to figure out how do I get my costs reduced even further to make us more competitive, what if we could fly people from point A to B and charge them a ticket fare that's less than what it would cost them to fill up the car and go? Then we're talking. How can we do this and improve our profitability so we can cut ticket fares or keep them more stable? And he said it's downtime. When a jet airplane comes into an airport, it taxis in, and there are people refueling it, cleaning it, checking all that stuff. Kelleher said if we can get this down and by 50%, we can increase our flight time significantly. Let's just do some simple numbers. Let's say you have 100,000 flights a year, 100,000, and it takes you 30 minutes to get a plane prepped to leave after it's arrived and get it cleaned up. Then basically, if you're spending 30 minutes, okay, to get that done on 100,000 flights, you can do the math. But what if you can cut that in half? What that means is suddenly you're turning those planes around, and the faster they're turned around, what? The faster they're back in the air making you money. And so Southwest has and continues to be the industry leader in flight in downtime flight prep. The flight comes in and taxis in, and they start to clean the thing and all that business. There's no one faster and better at it than Southwest Airlines, because they know the minutes they carve out there in that prep as the plane is there parked, the faster they get it back in the air, and when it's in the air, they're making money. Okay, well, I've given you a pretty spirited defense, I think, of Chapter 1, and I hopefully have helped you understand why this is just such an important question. One of the things about technology, especially information technology, that's difficult for us is that we can get married to a particular application, or we can get very myopic in the way we look at it. And so this course is designed to get you to step back and see the various systems that have to come together for things to work. All right, well, folks, as I promised you, this is the pre-recording, and I'm going to stop the share and then record this, and I'll post it over in the Canvas announcements. I'll put it over there. I'm going to create a YouTube video here, and I'll see everybody tomorrow morning at Convocation. God bless you. Take care, and I think we're done here.